Welcome to AFLEET 2017 tutorial 1 out of 5. AFLEET is a free Department of Energy tool created by Argonne National Laboratory as part of the Clean Cities program. In this video, I'll show you how to download the tool and we'll take a quick look at using it. So downloading the tool is pretty simple. Just take your favorite search engine, here's mine, and type in AFLEET Argonne. Should be one of the top results. Here we go, it's the greet.gov website. And this is where you can download the tool. There we go. So if you click right here, that's how you download it. You can also get the user manual right here. You can get a PDF of the changes that have been made to the tool over the years, if you're interested in that. And if it suits your fancy, you've got previous versions available for download along with their respective user manuals. But right now we're only interested in the actual one. So let's take a look. Yeah, so when you click on that, it takes you to a sign-in screen. AFLEET is free to the public, but you have to be a registered user. This is for two reasons. First, so the people who made the tool know where the users are coming from, like industry or academia or government, and so on. And second, it's so that when new versions are released, you can get an email update, which is generally pretty helpful to people. So once you sign up, you're good to go. If you've already signed up, just put in the email that you used. And it'll bring you back to this page. It'll look just the same as it did before, except that now when you click on it, it'll let you download the tool. So I already downloaded it because I came prepared. So let's take a look. All right. It opens up on the instructions page, which for the record is always a good idea to take a look at. The 2017 version of the tool has 4 calculator options. We've got the simple payback calculator, the total cost of ownership, or TCO for short, idling reduction calculator, or IR for short, and the footprint calculator. And they're all independent of each other, so you can use the tool for only one of them if you desire, or more than one. But essentially, you use the footprint calculator to get an assessment of your current footprint, and then if you're thinking about making some sort of change to your fleet, such as investing in an alternative fuel vehicle, you can use the payback and TCO calculators to consider your options. The idling reduction calculator is new to the 2017 version, and it's for getting a picture of the impacts of your fleet's idling and for comparing some technologies that could reduce it. Let's take a look at the inputs. So in the next 4 tutorials, I'll look a little more in depth about each of these calculators. For now, you just need to know a few basic things. First off is the structure of the tool. As you can see, we've got the inputs page right here. And then if you're using the payback calculator, for instance, you really only care about the outputs. You put your inputs, you get your outputs. If you're using a TCO, you put your inputs, you get your outputs. If you're using the IR calculator, you get your inputs, you get the outputs, and you get the idea. But the one in the middle, the one that doesn't say outputs, that's where all of the actual calculations are going on. And you don't actually have to really, this one's really long, there's hyperlinks to really help navigate, but you don't have to really look at these. It's always a good idea to make sure that what's going on in the calculations is what you want. This one's kind of intimidating to look at. but it's not actually as bad as it looks. So you don't really have to look at the stuff that's going on the inside. It's always a good idea to, but what you really care when you're using the tool, you want to look at inputs and you want to look at the outputs. So that's basically the structure of how it works. The second thing that's really important to know when you're using AFLEET is that the colors are really important, namely orange and yellow. The orange cells are drop-down menus that have key inputs. For instance, the fueling type, we've got private or public. This one actually really makes a difference. So you really got to check these things. For instance, yeah, here's the loan. If you're taking out a loan this is total cost of ownership. If you're doing a loan, then you'd have this be yes, and these values only apply if it's yes. They're there, but they don't apply if it's no. You get the idea. So you want to, if you see an orange cell, click on it, make sure it's the option that you want it to be. Yellow cells are not drop down, they're actual values that are inputted. These are key assumptions that you can input your own data for, and it's very recommended that you do, because AFLEET provides its own defaults, but these vary a lot depending on your specific circumstances, so it's generally a good idea to check the data and make sure that you're okay with it. Especially for things like fuel economy, which will really make a difference, the purchase price of the vehicle, and you really got to know how many miles you really got to have an estimate for how many miles you're driving each year, or each vehicle, yeah. And this is per vehicle, by the way, so if you've got 5, for instance, right here, then each vehicle would be driving that. It's not total. And yeah, so this is the light duty section is right here. You could essentially ignore that if you were only looking at heavy duty vehicles. Here's the heavy duty vehicle section right here. It's important to note that all of these values are comparing the alternative fuel against a baseline. So for light duty, the baseline is gasoline, and for heavy duty, it's diesel. So honestly, like, I should really kind of make that, oh wait, not that one. Whoops, here we go. It's gasoline for light duty, there we go, and diesel for heavy duty. Those are the defaults. So if you've it's important to have those ones filled in. Yeah. So for instance, you've got 5 gasoline cars, maybe light duty, and you're trying to compare against electric vehicle, then you'd put in 5 right here. Generally, you want the values to be the same. If you're comparing ones, you want them to be 0 if you don't really want to factor them in. So notice how I've put in 2 values right here. Now for payback outputs, we have 2 columns of things. The other ones are still blank. It's because I've got values for those ones. Yeah, and the third, so good rule of thumb, when you're using AFLEET, make sure that you're looking at the tool, and when you see yellow and when you see orange, take a look at those values. And sometimes it's a good idea to actually, look at the inside part, because as you can see, these are a whole bunch of secondary assumptions that are being made. These aren't as important, so they're not on the inputs page, but it's still a good idea to take a look at them. Yeah. Okay, so the third thing that is really important when you're using AFLEET is hyperlinks. This is just an Excel thing, but you can recognize hyperlinks by their blue text and they're underlined, and AFLEET is a really big tool. Like, you look at the TCO tab, for instance, it's just really, really big. So in order to navigate through this, we've got the hyperlinks. For instance, here's a really important part. Let's say you've chosen passenger car. Here we go, the options. So the vocation type is just a car, but if you want to change this, click on the hyperlink and it'll bring you to the vocation section table. As you can see, for passenger car, the type selected is car, which, as we can see, car, just a generic car. But let's say you're looking at a police car, or you're looking at a taxi car. Then you could select that, and you'd go back, and now you see it's changed. So you really want to, click on the hyperlinks just to make sure, if you get lost or something, they're good for navigation and pointing you in the right direction. And the fourth thing that you really should know about when you're using AFLEET is comments are really important. The comments are generally filled with a whole bunch of relevant information and clarifications. You can recognize a comment by the red triangle in the upper right-hand corner of a cell. As you can see, a whole bunch of these cells have comments. All of these have comments. And these got comments. I mean, there's comments throughout the entire tool. And to read them, you just simply mouse over the cell. So, and yeah, here's something that is probably a good idea to notice. Sometimes, this just happens with Excel sometimes, you can't read the comment for whatever reason, the text box is too small. To change that, just go and edit the comment, and you can make the text box be big enough so you can actually read what's actually in it. Yeah, you can resize it. Sometimes it just gets shifted or something and you can't read it, as you can see. Edit comment, make it big again, click away. Now you can read it. Great. I also should add that unless you want to refresh the calculations by hand every time you make a change, you should set your calculation options to automatic. So like when I change this to passenger truck, all of these values just changed. But if it's not set to automatic, it's not going to change. So the way that you can make sure that it's set to the right setting is you can go up to formulas, go over to calculation options, and choose automatic. That's just a good thing to make sure that you've done. So yeah, AFLEET can be kind of intimidating when you're looking at it for the first time, but it's actually pretty straightforward. You input your data into the inputs. Into the inputs tab, you look at the output for whichever tool you're using, and you're good to go. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped a bit. Feel free to check out parts 2, 3, and 4, and 5 as well, if you so desire.